Home the gold.
He could be too far. No, he's kicking. Oh, what a catch!
Puts a spicy forehand out in front of Naomi Morcilla.
Move for the win. Team Canada. Darren Wu!
Santos with the layout grab.
Oh, that fantastic grab. The claws of Chapter.
Canada just became the world champions.
Yo, Canada and the rest of the world, you're listening to the Huckin Eh podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Theo Wan, from the 6, Toronto, Ontario.
And I'm Danie Proby from the 604, which is Vancouver, BC. And together we make your coast-to-coast guide to all things Canadian Ultimate. Today we are, in fact, talking about Canadian Ultimate. Actually, a little bit of American Ultimate, too. We're throwing in there. We even talk about Germany a little bit, sort of. So, an international episode, mostly focusing on good old-fashioned Canadian content. But, yes?
Well, more specifically, college content. That's why you're seeing us repping. I got to rep my team, even though we're bounced out of the tournament. She's repping the Steve Nash old, I believe he's a Victoria native, correct?
Yes. I think that rings a bell. Victoria.
Yeah, so
yes.
He's a BC native. Anyways, we're doing a March Madness theme episode where we're talking about college ultimate. Danie, the real question everyone wants to know is, did you do a bracket? And is anyone left in your bracket if you did one?
Theo correctly predicted off air that I did not do a bracket. Ain't nobody got time for that in my world. I think it would have been really fun, and it does help with the engagement, kind of doing picks and kind of seeing how your teams do. Definitely does engage you more, and I was 100% unengaged this year.
Yeah, that it does not surprise me, unfortunately, Danie, that I did call it off air. For me, at least on the men's side, I did a bracket, a couple brackets, and in the main bracket I have for the moolah, the money there, no teams in the Final Four. I had Kentucky in the Final Four. They got knocked out in the first round by everyone's favorite St. Peter's. So, my bracket wasn't looking too good. On the women's bracket side, I'm always a fan of UConn because of Paige Bucher. So I didn't pick that tournament, but I do want to see UConn go all the way. They're traditionally really good, and she's an exciting player to watch. So that's sort of the March Madness aspect. But you had some other madness going on in a good way with, and I see you shaking your head because you know what I was trying to do. So you had some madness going on over the weekend. So why don't you tell us about that?
I have so many regrets with so many decisions I make in my life. Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about personal news, last weekend we had this little cute Elevate junior team get invited to a local junior kind of like tournament scrimmage day, and we won all our games. It was really fun, and we're actually sending 2 teams to Spring Rain this year because a lot of schools aren't able to send teams to American tournaments, and so we're kind of taking 2 club teams down, which should be really exciting. But this last weekend, it was the end of our leadership program for Elevate. It's the end of our leadership program year. So they volunteer a lot in the spring break camps, like they're coaching kids, and then they get to have this retreat. And because of COVID, because everything's kind of like last minute, we weren't sure, we hosted it at my apartment. Ari was in Texas, luckily, playing Ultimate Nationals at the same facility as World Game Tryouts and some sort of dog frisbee championships. Lots of stuff happening. So anyways, it was just me in the house and my dog and 15 teenagers and 4 other adults. My apartment is not big, so you can imagine there's 3 of them like sardines sleeping in the kitchen. They're under the dining table. They're on the deck. It was so hectic, so fun. So many cans of spilled pop everywhere. It's like literally having panic attacks, but it was really fun and cute, and they had a good time, and I'm still so tired. How was your weekend? Less children, probably. More sports. You were in Calgary?
Yeah, YYC, if I'm not mistaken, is the airport. I should know this, but yes, YYC. Yeah. I was in Calgary, Alberta, from what would have been Tuesday to Monday. So for 6 days there, covering the U Sports Women's Volleyball National Championship for the University of Toronto Varsity Blues. We came in 5th. a good finish, but I know some of the team, I'm sure they listen to this podcast, avid fans, so they'll definitely be hearing about this. But yeah, we lost to McGill in the quarters, but able to win our next 2 games. And Danny, honestly, being in Calgary, I know it's not the West Coast, but I had to try some new things. So I had a couple buys and meals, and didn't get to do as much sightseeing as I would like. I know they got the Calgary Tower, which is trying to be the CN Tower, but obviously CN Tower is better. So, but other than that, Calgary was a good trip. I am also very tired. At the time of this recording, flew in at 5 a.m. was when I had to wake up because we had an 8 a.m. flight. So that's my tiredness level there. Have you been to Calgary, Danny?
I actually lived in Calgary for a year. So that, like when you're 18 or you just graduate high school and all these people are going to college and you don't. And the thought of like staying in your hometown when it's a small town, when everyone else is gone, has literally made me want to stab my eyes out. So hopped on a plane, moved to Calgary, lived in a house with like 6 other people and slept on a $10 mattress with my friend because we shared a little room and made it work. No regrets. Lots of regrets. So many regrets.
Some regrets, but sounds like a really good time. We don't talk a lot about the prairies. So tell us some good spots that I definitely missed out on. I went to a place called Village Ice Cream, which was really good. So if you're from Calgary, you probably know that place. So any other spots in Calgary that are must see? So the next time I go, I'm going to hit them up.
All I did when I was in Calgary was work. I played online poker for money and I served at a restaurant. And so I was like to and from work and then to my computer. It was not healthy. I do not recommend it. I did not explore Calgary at all. So I'm not the person to ask, unfortunately.
So that's okay. We got some Calgary fans out there, I know for sure. So maybe you can DM us with some Calgary places to go see here. I'm just shocked that you were an online poker player. That's like something you should have told me earlier on because that's pretty cool life story there.
Yeah, I made a living for quite a while. Don't tell anybody that I coached that I gambled for a living. I am a changed person. I am a very traditionally hard worker now. So it just was a bit of a bumpy road before I went to college. And that's for another time, another conversation.
Many moons ago, as they say.
Many moons ago. Yes, indeed.
So, Danny, now that we've gone the old news, the nostalgia out of the way, should we hit the current news now and kind of let our audience know what's been going on?
Yes, there's so much. I'm excited. So let's head there right away.
We now have breaking news.
So welcome to the news. As I mentioned, we're going to talk some college ultimate. So we got to update you on results, don't we? So at the Canadian Eastern Indoor University, championships, whatever it's called.
Series.
Series. Actually series. In your women's division, the quarterfinals, Mcmaster takes on the Rams. Ottawa, it looks like Universe, 12-11 over Guelph. Waterloo Black defeating Waterloo Gold, which in brackets says B, so they needed to make clear which team was the B team based because they only went with colors. And the London Sharks, 14-6 over Carlton. And then your semis, Mcmaster and Waterloo advance. And then Mcmaster, 12-10, defeats Waterloo. So congrats to Mcmaster. And you'll hear from some of the captains of that team later on this episode. So you got to make sure you stick to this podcast. In the open division, there was a lot of teams going on, so I'm not going to name everything that happened. But your top 8 was Carlton defeating Mcmaster by a very large score, 23-7. Ottawa then playing the other Mcmaster team and winning. Waterloo A defeating Carlton B. And Sherbrooke, Quebec's own, coming out to this tournament, winning 11-9. And then dropping a heartbreaker to Waterloo A in the semi, 16-15. Carlton getting the best of Ottawa in the Capital City matchup, 15-10. And then the Capital City zone, as I just said, Carlton taking down Waterloo 16-13. And you'll be hearing from head coach Jeremy Hill also in that segment. So stay tuned for that. That's the indoor results. But Danny, as you mentioned, there were some American things we're going to talk about. And if you didn't know already, McGill is now ranked in the Ulti-World's College Power Rankings number 24, in large part due to their success at Centex. a tournament held in Austin, Texas. In pool play, they went 2-1, only dropping a game to the host UT Austin. They were ranked, you know what it was, Danny, dead last, 16. So
it's pretty motivating.
Yeah, I mean, part of it's like no one knows who they are. So they're just like, hey, we're just going to see them last and see what they do. So that is what happened. And in the quarterfinals, they take down the D3 champions from the fall, Oklahoma Christian, 15-10. Then they take out their other rivals from the New England region, Dartmouth, 11-7. And then they only lose by 2 to UT Austin, which is a perennial nationals contender that goes to nationals in the U.S. So lots of good things to say about McGill there, Danny.
They were even up for the majority of the first half, and they kind of just lost it right near the end. And they did not look like not a top 10 team at times to me. Like, there were some times where there were some interesting decisions being made, but the wind, we'll talk about it later. I was just so impressed when I was watching the footage. If you don't subscribe to Ulti World, you should, because it's important to watch this game. Cheer on our good Canadian pals south of the border.
Yeah, and you're going to see why also in the interview coming up, why that team went to Austin, Texas. So you'll hear about that later. But Danny, at least in Ontario, I know you're going to talk about some West Coast news as well, but seeing this happen more specifically east of Ontario in Quebec there, Mephisto has named their team. Iris has named their team as well. So I'm going to go on record to say this. I am hyped up, super hyped about this Mephisto team because they just added some really strong rookies, recruits, as they say. Nick Boucher, Alec Arsenal, Quinn Snyder. That's some good stuff. I don't know if Quinn's living in Montreal or just commuting for practice, whatever that looks like, but they just really bolstered their roster for Worlds and for a USAU Nationals push.
Do you know that those players are playing not just Worlds, that they're actually competing for the whole season? Is that the idea?
I am not sure, but I wouldn't put it past the Montreal program to want to require that, just because I know, based on the conversations we've had about the Montreal program and even having Kevin Quinlan on and some of the unification of both the Royale and Mephisto, that probably would be something. I don't want to speculate. So
yeah,
Montreal, if you know, why don't you tell us? Because it'd be good to know, because I know Goat in the past has taken some players that were just for Worlds and that weren't actually going to play the summer series or the fall. So definitely happens. On the Irish side, a couple players that were on there, that familiar names that you would know, Jesse Grignon Tomas and Anushka Baudry, both not being on the roster. Dan, I'm not sure if you, when we talked about that roster before and how hyped we were about it last year, if you kind of knew that would be like a one-off because of the fact that it was like kind of a weird adult nationals kind of thing.
It did seem like that. I think with Jesse GT just not being able to travel so much over the border, it kind of seemed like that was going to be what it would be. And I mean, they didn't really get a full season to kind of see what they would have been able to do with that level of roster. I think Iris is deep regardless, so I think they're going to have a really successful season even without them. Obviously, they're studs, and it's nice to have them on the field, but I have no worries for Iris. They're gonna be just fine this year.
Yeah, heading to Worlds as well. So
yeah,
other news that I know it's going to kind of be echoed in the West Coast portion of this segment is that Talk 6, the women's B team here in Toronto, is back. So that's really exciting, because we had talked about how there was a few less women's teams playing at UCI or just signing up. So the fact that they're back, they got some coaches, players that have played at a pretty high level. So excited that the program is back and that there's, opportunities for female matching players in Toronto to play. So that is super exciting news. And more tryout forms are coming out. I'm not going to list every team that's listing their tryouts, because that would be a lot. But if you're playing Ultimate in a city, you need to search up kind of the local Discord and see what teams are out there and kind of find out, ask around, because club tryouts are happening, and they're happening soon, at least on the East Coast of things. So make sure you do that. And speaking of East Coast or Eastern part of Canada, there's a couple tournaments that have been announced. So Montreal Jazz Fest, one of my favorite tournaments, is happening June 11th and 12th. And then another one of my favorite tournaments, because it's right before Nationals, and it's Ottawa's No Borders at the pristine fields, Danny, that you were at, that you and I actually met for the first time. So that tournament's happening July 16th and 17th. So pencil those into your calendar. Teams are already putting it on their tryout forms because those tournaments have been confirmed. So that's pretty exciting stuff. But now we're shifting to the West, right?
Yeah, interestingly enough, I've never been to No Borders, but I might be able to go to No Borders this year as a coach. It might be one of our training camps for TC. So hopefully we can make it out there, which would be really fun. So West Coast news. Red Flag has finalized their roster. I don't think it's public knowledge yet, so I'm just going to leave it at they have finalized their roster. They have some sick new recruits that have joined the team and a couple kind of wily veterans that have been studs on other teams in the past that are kind of making a resurgence and trying out for a new, fresh, fast, fit, young mixed team in Vancouver. So I've said this a million times. I cannot wait to see them compete in the States. I cannot wait to see them compete. They're super exciting to watch play. So I'm just stoked. So if you're on that Red Flag team, it's going to be a wild ride and we're all rooting for you. So just like Toxics, Koish is going to be back this year in Vancouver. So we have a second women's team. They're kind of under the process of solidifying a coach, which is always really important for getting buy-in from players. So there's going to be a second established women's team in Vancouver, which we'd love to hear. Other news, the Misfit winter team, so our junior club teams, were supposed to go to Seven Hills, which is a competitive youth tournament in Seattle, but they weren't able to go, just like too many complications. And so they hosted a local kind of scrimmage day against Koish/SFU and UBCB, and the Misfit on the women's side anyways, they were able to win both of their games. And I believe on the open side, they did quite well as well. I think their games are possibly a little bit tighter on the other side. So very exciting. The juniors are looking really good and they're looking ready for U20 tryouts, which registration just opened for that. So if you're listening to this, you're U20, hop on Ultimate Canada's website, register for tryouts, do it. You won't regret it. All right. One unfortunate thing about the U20 tryouts, especially the ones, or specifically the one that is in Vancouver, is it's the same weekend as college regionals. Which, if you're not from the West Coast, you don't fully appreciate or understand how important college regionals is. That's the goal. That's the tournament you're peaking for. You're trying to get that bid to go to college nationals. It's everything that you're working towards. And so missing out on some of your very talented new players, it's a big burden. And those players need to make a decision. Is it worth it to skip regionals for their chance to represent TC at the U20 level? What if they're maybe not going to make it? What if they think that they would make it? There's some hard decisions being made. I feel bad because there's quite a few players that I think it impacts, especially on the UVic Open side. There's a few players that are their prospects there. And I know on the UBC women's side, there's a couple as well. So heart goes out to them for that decision. And if you're listening to this and you need any help financially figuring out a way to like fly somewhere for another tryout, just let me know. Unfortunately, USAU was unable to move the regional tournament. It's never that late. It's normally in April, and this year it's May 7, 8. It's never been in May. So like we thought we were in the clear with those tryout dates, but unfortunately not. So I'm going to keep rolling. That Douglas Bowl happened. They're going to be renaming the Douglas Bowl because of, I'm sure, every single name of these places are just people that did bad things in the past. So they're going to rename it. So if you're listening to this and you have some ideas or suggestions for the UVic UBC Annual Cup should be called, that's not possibly an evil person in history, let us know, slide into our DMs, and we can pass those suggestions along. So at the Douglas Bowl, UBC handled the UVic women. I believe the score was something like 13-7, 15-7, something in that range, which actually is like a pretty good score to me because that UBC team is very strong on the women's side. And so that gives me a lot of hope that UVic can actually do some serious damage at regionals. So it's very, very exciting. And on the open side, I'm pretty sure it was a universe point win for UVic. And that happens a lot at Douglas Bowl. I don't know what it is. It's always like universe point between those teams. And I think that the majority of the time it's UVic overcoming UBC. So super exciting. UBC just didn't really have an answer for the Bennett-Justin Pettinuzzo combination. So it is what it is. That's how it goes. UVic women were also supposed to go to Tier 2 Northwest Challenge. I think a lot of teams dropped super last minute due to COVID and some other reasons. And so they ended up pulling out. I was supposed to coach them and I was really excited, but it didn't end up happening, unfortunately. So their first tournament is actually going to be conference championships, it's pretty tough. So one more update from me, and it's the UBC women. They got to go to Tier 1 Northwest Challenge this past weekend. They are power ranked, I believe, in Ulti World at like 11 or 12, but in this tournament, they were seeded 10th. And so a lot of mysteries. People don't really know what's going on with this UBC team. There was a lot of kind of speculation about how they do. I'm sure that they were quite also nervous because they haven't played against American competition. A lot of them have never really done these tournaments. The team is quite young, but they came out guns blazing. It was super exciting. They beat Stanford 15-7. Stanford was ranked 7th, or seeded 7th rather. So that was like a pretty big first, here we are, we've arrived kind of moment. And I really loved it. And then they got to play against Carlton College, which is normally first or second power ranked. And they had a really close score. They only lost by 2, final score 14-12. So pretty exciting coming out of those like kind of mini pool plays. So they ended up having a pre-quarter against Whitman. And the score that's on here says 15-1. I heard 15-4 at one point, but either way, damn. Their O-line was just chilling that whole game. So that is a statement if I've ever seen one. And then in their quarter game, they ended up playing UNC, which is the number 1 ranked team. And they ended up losing by 5. But I think it was pretty close up until half. I think UNC kind of pulled away a little bit at the end. All in all, UBC ended up finishing 5th. They ended up beating Carlton the second time they played them. They got to beat them 15-12 to take 5th place. So super exciting. I think they not only met everyone's expectations, but they exceeded them. And I would move mountains to be able to watch them at regionals. And Theo, I know you are one of the people that edits the videos, and I know you're one of the people that's going to be editing the UBC video, and I want to light a fire under your butt because I need to watch those games. Please. Please.
First of all, thank you for the shout out / plug. Second of all, if you're not a subscriber, we're probably going to say this again in the episode.
Subscribe.
You got to do it because you get all these videos and other coverage as well. So, and also supports what we do. So we sound like true YouTubers when we say that, kind of like, you know, with a Patreon account or something,
Subscribe.
but make sure you subscribe. And I'm really excited, honestly, for all the Canadian teams going out of the States. One that we'll highlight right now is the McGill Women's team has literally, as we were recording, kind of like going through this whole recording night for us. We got a message that McGill Women's team has been confirmed to go to sectionals, which is super exciting because we're going to talk about the McGill men who went to Centex. But yeah, it's super exciting for them and wish them the best of luck. And hopefully they can go to regionals and then potentially nationals, knowing that the New England region this year is just stacked, I believe, on both sides. So yeah, McGill, maybe just move to I made this joke later, I believe, but just move to the Metro East or something.
The Metro Easy.
It's actually Metro Least.
It's both.
Is what I've been told. So
Metro Easy.
So easy does it for us. That's our news. We're going to hear from our sponsor, and then you're going to get a double main event. We love that. March Madness edition. So let's hit the ad, and then let's talk some college ultimate. This episode is brought to you by Be Ultimate Apparel. Based out of Vancouver, BC, Be Ultimate is climate neutral certified and designs products that are built to perform. I personally love my 2 sun hoodies from them, and I rock them wherever I go. If you want to learn more about Be Ultimate, head over to beultimate.ca or visit the link in the show description.
Hey friends, this is Morgan Hibbert from Vancouver Furious George and Team Canada, and you're listening to the Huckin Eh podcast, your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate. Giddy up.
All right, we're here, main event time. We got some special guests all the way from Montreal, ready to talk some Centex, which happened over a week ago now, but we finally got them on the podcast. They did really well, and we're excited for what they do next. So really excited to have some members of the McGill Ultimate Team here.
Yeah, I'm Benno. I moved here to Canada just half a year ago for a PhD. And before that, I played for like 10 years in Germany, mostly for the club team from Munich, MUC. And we were like the second best team in Germany usually. And recently I played 2019 for under 24 Germany. That was another highlight. That's about it, frisbee wise for me.
Wow. Let's go Calvin next.
All right. Hey, I'm Calvin. I'm a fourth year undergraduate here at McGill. I'm one of the captains of the McGill Ultimate Team, D-line handler. Grew up in Austin, played frisbee there since I was in like the 8th grade or something like that. And I got 2 more years here at McGill. I'm sticking around. I got 2 more years eligibility for the Canadian Series.
Yes, use all the eligibility you can. That's my advice to everyone always. Just take that
Absolutely.
victory lap. Makalu, how about you next?
Hey, I'm Makalu. This is my 3rd year at McGill, undergrad as well. Also have another 2 years, keeping the team together. I'm a D-line hybrid, so handler, whatever you kind of want, cutter too. And I reign from Vancouver, West Coast, West Coast.
Agreed. All right, so thank you for introducing yourselves. It's awesome that you all come from such different places and get to play on the same team together. So kind of along those lines, Theo and I are definitely curious about what made McGill decide to play in the spring season. It's not very typical for teams not in BC to play in the States, and it's something that I've never really fully understood. So when I saw that y'all were going to play in Centex, it was super exciting. So what was it that went into that decision, and kind of like just like the thought process, and did the team buy in immediately? And let's start with you, Calvin.
Yeah, so I guess like in general, myself and Hayden Stone, we're both from Austin. We grew up together. We know each other since we were, little kids. And so coming here to McGill, I was pretty bummed at first that we didn't play in the U.S. series in the spring season at all. Right. And, over the course of my time here, I realized that part of it was because it's way easier for those West Coast teams to be practicing year round, be able to play, because it's so much nicer outside there. And it's pretty tough for Northeast teams in general to just play ultimate. And so if there's the extra, barrier of like crossing the border to play down south, then that's what's stopping a lot of these East Coast Canadian frisbee teams from doing it. But, it's been something that me and him have wanted to do the whole time that we've been here. I remember freshman year seeing all the the tweets coming in from Centex and being like, dang, I want to be at that tournament someday. So it's been a dream 4 years in the making. And with COVID happening, it kind of felt like a bit of a reset for the team. And coming back from that, we were like, you know what, like, let's just do it. And a lot of the rookies coming in 2019 and this year are really committed to this team and to wanting to push this team to be the best we can be. And part of that is just continuing to play year round. And then I guess Centex specifically, we decided as a team that like, if we're going to be playing in this spring season, we want to do it right. And we want to be the best we can be. And part of that is going to be playing in a tournament before, the postseason, before sectionals rolls around. And, there's nothing outside up here before sectionals just because of how cold it is. And so you're like, we're going to have to travel for one of these tournaments. We're probably going to have to fly. And we decided to go to Centex because it's going to be the cheapest flying tournament we can go to, because 3 of the guys in the team, myself, Hayden Stone, and Sean Hall, are all from Austin. So we're like, hey, if we can get the tickets, if we can get down there, we don't have to pay for hotels. We don't have to pay for cars. We don't have to pay for food. Like, we will just be staying with our family. So this is, our best option in terms of traveling tournaments, basically.
Wow. And it's such a big weather difference from what y'all were just used to going to play summer. That's so hot and probably quite windy, when all the ultimate you've been probably playing has been like 4-on-4 indoor, I assume.
Yeah, 5v5 mostly is all the stuff we've been playing on turf. And it was hot. The guys didn't believe me when I told them it was going to be really hot. And then we saw the effects Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah. Now, for those of you that are watching, you might realize that there were 5 of us and now there's only 4. And this happens. It's kind of like the Easter egg for our podcast, is that sometimes one of us just like randomly drops. And if you catch it, you get a prize. But Theo will likely join us again at some point, but we're going to keep motoring ahead without him. We're going to soldier on. So Okay, so the next question that we have, or I guess I have, is that there was kind of initial buzz happening when you started winning some games. I think you went in obviously seated quite low. No one knew anything about you. And so what was the kind of feeling or reaction when you started just beating teams that were seated higher than you? Did you hear anything? Was there a buzz at the fields, even among your own team? And then I think we can have Makalu or Benno. Either one of you can take this one and the other one can follow up.
Benno, do you want to start or?
You can go ahead.
Okay. I think it was pretty commonly shared amongst our team itself that we were underseeded dramatically. We didn't feel like a 16 seed at all. We still don't. We had the expectation that we wanted to be right up there with the top team, Texas, and that is kind of consistent with our mentality here. We always want to be comparing ourselves to the best teams, and we want to be on that level, and that's something that going to the US kind of requires. And so we didn't really have that much of a buzz, especially beating teams that were like somewhat higher seeded than us, just because we didn't have that mentality of low seed, for sure. I don't know if Benno has more to add.
I would just add that we also didn't practice before the month before, so there was definitely some uncertainty, like how good we would play, or like we didn't have we couldn't practice our set plays at all. Like I think we practiced twice before the tournament since November, and only one of twice in a proper field indoors. So there was definitely also a huge improvement in the first games, and that was definitely something we got excited about, that we saw that we can improve so quickly in the first 2 games already.
Awesome. And if you're watching, you now see that Theo has decided to come back from his break, and he is now with us. So Theo, we've been having a really fun time without you, but we're happy that you're back.
Yeah, I need some help with some computer issues, so we could maybe start a GoFundMe or something, crowdfunding for the host here to get a better computer, because it's just lagging out. And I'm on my phone right now, so we'll see how it goes. So if I ask you a question that has already been answered, you'll know why. So we're on question 3. I can see that from Danny's hand signals here. So once again, if you're on the video side, you get all the secrets. So the finals game, this is going to be a shameless plug for us again, for you to be an Ulti-World subscriber, because then you can go watch McGill playing the finals. So pause the podcast right now, go subscribe, watch the game, then come back, and then you hear them talk about the game. So there you go. So finals, talk about the game. Who wants to start by just kind of painting us a picture of how the finals game went? Who wants to be the storyteller here?
So I can provide just a little bit of background and context for this game, at least coming from my point of view. Being from Austin, and I know that Hayden and Sean, who are also from Austin, kind of shared this viewpoint. It's like we've been watching this team, this Texas Tough team. We've been watching them from the younger perspective for so many years, and then we've been growing up with these guys in the community. We've been playing with them, against them in high school, youth club. They've gone through the pipeline. They've stuck around in Austin. We've gone through that Austin pipeline. We're all in Montreal together, and we're like, man, we really want to take a shot at this team. And, we know that they're far and away the best team at this tournament. We know that they're a nationals quality team. And we're like, you know what? We've fought through the bracket to get here, to be able to take a second shot at this team for the tournament. I wouldn't waste this opportunity for anything.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I didn't know the team at all. I don't know any of the US teams really in detail. But we played against them in the pool play already, and we knew they were quite strong. And I heard from my teammates that they had 10, 15 AUDL players and are stacked, and everything looked super clean. So we knew we were the underdog in the final. But I would say we played better than in pool play. In the first points initially, we got 1 break already, so we were quite hyped. And in the end, it wasn't enough, but the whole game was just on one level, I would say, with them playing maybe a bit cleaner, but us playing a bit more, I don't know, chaotically, but still kind of, being on their level in a different way, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I can finish up. I think that the most noteworthy thing from my perspective is that even though they were the home crowd, we kind of felt like the home crowd. We had like huge family support from the three guys from Austin, and we had friend support, and we had a couple of family members from other teammates not from Austin in Austin, perhaps like perchance. And so it really felt like it was like the two home crowds really going at it, even though we were from the farthest away out of anyone else in the tournament, which was really like amazing atmosphere to play in.
Yeah, I just want to really quick shout out my extended family. A lot of them hadn't actually got to see me play College Ultimate live, ever after going away to Montreal. And so, like grandparents, great uncles, aunts, uncles, stuff like that. Everybody got to come out and see me play. And that felt really nice. It was a good time.
That's so cute. I have a couple questions about that finals game because I am a subscriber and I got to watch it and it was awesome. And I kind of talked a little bit about this off air, but it definitely seemed quite windy. Like you could sometimes the wind kind of like it showed itself, but in other times the throws were so nice, like especially the deep throws, that I think I forgot that there was wind sometimes. So first of all, that's just like a testament to the throwers on both sides of the game. I do have like a couple questions. So my first question, or not question so much, but Calvin, there's like this funny moment. I think it was like at 6-5 or something. And they pulled it and it was like a roller and you went to try to stop it and then you didn't stop it. And they're like, he touched it. I saw it. And then do you remember what you said afterwards?
I think I said something like, I didn't touch it. We all know I didn't touch it. We all saw that.
It was like really funny because like I think in that moment, if somebody had said you touched it, I would have been like, no, I didn't. Like I would have been a bit more anxious about it. But you're like, we all know I didn't touch it. And it just really.
I mean, it like both sides have been kind of chirping each other all game a little bit because we all know each other and stuff like that. So it's like the disc came down. And I shouldn't have even tried to stop it because it was going to roll out. But my instinct was like, just try and stop it. And then I didn't touch it. And I was like, oh, they're all going to say I touched it. And so I was just trying to head that off immediately.
Okay.
But yeah, that was good. And actually behind me, like you see me walking off camera to get the disc or whatever. And just standing above, there's a little ledge and a couple people were standing up there. And the tournament director, Najee, was standing there. And I played against him in club summer 2019 or something like that. And there was a bit of an incident where my club team had a really nice pull that rolled right next to the back cone. And he claimed to touch the cone, walked it all the way up. And so I tried to get a shot in about that, too, because he was saying I touched it. I didn't touch it. And it also didn't touch that cone, Najee. We both know.
There you have it. So we're getting all the insider scoop. And then I do have another question. And I don't know who best to ask it to. So I'm going to pose it. And if you have some insight on the question, just unmute and give it a run. But the score before half was quite close. Obviously, it was close after half too. But I think it was you were up, I believe, and Texas ends up scoring a Callahan on you. And we all know what that feels like, especially in a game like that. It's kind of a bummer, to put it lightly. And what impressed me the most was the very next point. Your team ran like a really clean, looked like a set play, easy Huck goal score. And that's impressive because I think after something like getting scored on via Callahan and to be able to just like keep composure the next point, it says something a lot about the maturity of a team. And so I'm curious what was said on the sideline, what was said on the line, if you remember kind of the energy and the mood of the team, because I think it would be a good insight for everyone listening. Everyone's like, I don't know.
I mean, Benno was on the line.
Yeah, I don't remember what we said, but I know personally in those moments I sort of shifted a different mode and just become super like tunnel vision, just not angry, but like very determined and like walking up as a role model sort of to the line to show others like heads up, like everything like that. That's the only thing I remember. I don't know what happened on the point afterwards, to be honest.
I could say a little thing from the sideline, I guess. I mean, yeah, it was a super tight first half. We went up early with a downwind break, and then we're unable to break. Both teams were unable to break upwind. Oh, sorry,
actually, it was
upwind break, other way around. Yeah, upwind break, and then both teams were unable to break again downwind until like half. And then there was some controversy around halftime, which I guess you don't really see on Ulti World. but we won't get into much.
Why not? Why not? I think we should.
I mean, maybe Calvin can touch upon it a little bit more. I don't really know. It was just
I can explain that.
But yeah,
I can explain that in a second. But Makalu, keep going. I'll talk about that afterwards.
Yeah, sure. But after that Callahan, it was. I mean, like all respect to it, it was a great Callahan. It was a hand block into a Callahan just because the wind took it up and made it float. But I don't think it really phased us that much, just because we had been playing so strongly and we knew, oh, that sucks. Oh well, we'll get it back. We're even now. We'll get it back. Like, and that was kind of the mindset on the sideline, at least, for sure. But I guess Calvin, yeah, you should touch upon the halftime.
Yeah, I guess just for the Callahan real quick, like I think the reason it didn't phase us, at least for me, was just like, oh, we're back on serve now. Like we broke them upwind, they broke us downwind, whatever. We can do it again. We're back on serve. But yeah, with the halftime, there were no rules in the captain's packet about Sunday games in terms of when half was. Like in the captain's packet, they had there was a hard time cap half at like 40 minutes or something for the Saturday games. Sunday games were longer. They never said anything about when half was. We thought it was going to be a time cap half, and their team was like, oh no, we're playing to 8. So there was a whole question about when half was, whatever. We tried to not let it phase us too much. It was a little unfortunate that, we got broken a couple of times right before that half happened. But I think there was just a bit of confusion about, time cap half versus we're playing a points half versus when that was. But yeah, that all got cut out from the broadcast. But I think there were at least 2 or 3 moments where, like, after points, both teams were kind of standing on the field looking at each other like, oh, is it half? No, you sure? But the half, okay, we'll play one more. It's fine. Like there were like, I think 2 or 3 moments right before half where that happened.
Yeah, and then I have one more question specifically about the game, and it's for Makalu, for you. It looked like you had a clean foot block on a huck, and it got called back. Can you describe that a little bit?
Yeah, he just called contact. He called contact. I think he thought that my foot had made contact with his hand while he was releasing, or that he didn't release it before my foot made contact with the disc. I mean, looking back, it looked clean. I thought it was pretty clean. But I did think all game, everyone kind of had some pretty fair calls. We had some calls that we should have actually called. And they had some calls that they should have called, but didn't call. But yeah, that was a little bit rough. That one hurt for sure.
I know I said the last one, but I have one more, I promise. This is it though. And there was something that happened at the beginning of the game, and I see it kind of in high school ultimate a little bit, like just not really understanding the rules, but it's like somebody on your team, I think it was your team, caught the disc near the end zone and wasn't sure if they were in, and there was a mini discussion, but then they threw it, and then they're like, someone thought there was a timeout called or something. Was there an issue there, or what was that about?
Yes. Yeah. That was a fun call to deal with on the field for sure. Our player caught a huck, and I still don't even know what he was doing with the hand signal. He kind of made like a goal sign, but it looked a little bit like a timeout sign. It was unclear. The coaches were yelling from the Texas team, "Oh, that's a timeout." And then they did let us play it off just by tapping it in and just going from there. But I mean, I think it was just like a kind of interpretation / he didn't mean to do it / everyone kind of was confused for a second. But it was definitely awkward just standing right in front of him, seeing, and then having to talk about it, being like, it was a goal. No, it was a timeout.
So he didn't bring his hands. It didn't do this.
Yeah. Okay. So from what I understand, the guy that did that, his name is Elio. And what happened was he caught it. He knew he wasn't in the end zone. And instead of saying not in, he said, I'm out, which sounds a lot like timeout.
Oh.
And having played with Elio, that thing he did, that's how he fakes sometimes.
Is he a basketball player?
So I think he was... he might have. I don't think so, but it's part of his,
maybe he wanted to signal people to run to the end zone or something like that. I think as well, like go to the end zone.
He was doing something. I've seen him do that before, but I can understand why seeing someone go like this and then hearing "I'm out" would make you think he was calling a timeout, but that's not what he was trying to do.
Mystery solved.
Thank
you. Thank you.
Mystery solved. Shout out to Texas for not making us burn a timeout on that one. Thanks, guys. But yeah, he said I'm out was the was the issue.
That's fair. Theo, do you want to? I'm done. So,
Danny, first of all, I like all the research. Like, come on, audience, you got to be excited. Danny, like, just like analyzing
watch Frisbee. Watch Frisbee.
Not
my
just
favorite thing to do.
Frisbee, asking good questions. We do love it. And so now another question for you. Tournament's over. It's been over a week. So as you reflect on the tournament, what was the key to success for your team? Because obviously you had a good day or a good 2 days. So who wants to jump in and kind of share what was the key to success for your team?
I can start off here. I think the way that we're looking at this spring season is we just want to play extra Frisbee with our friends. You know what I mean? And we want to get better. And we want to just go out and make plays for each other. And I think especially the mindset going into this tournament was like, yeah, we had only had all the practicing that we had done since, sectionals in the fall was it was like a training camp. It was 2 mornings, Saturday, Sunday, the weekend before. And so we were like, man, we are going to get so much better this weekend. And we could see that, game to game, even on day one, it was amazing. You'd finish a game, you'd be like, listen, we won, sure, but like we just got so much better, and you could see our quality improve throughout the course of the day coming in on Sunday. And I think our key to success for the tournament was just like, we are about to get so much better over the next 2 days, and we're going to use this as a springboard into the rest of our season and to improve and to really show up and show out in the postseason. I think was how we were thinking about it.
Calvin, before I ask anyone else, I'm not sure if you've ever coached, but that speech right there, like, you got to start coaching or something, because other people can learn from that. I'm just saying. So future, like other coaches out there, like listen to what he just said, Calvin just said, because that was some good stuff. So
do you want to start an Elevate in Austin?
There you go. Oh, look at that pitch. Come on, let's go.
I can't take full credit for that. Me and the other captains, we that's basically we've agreed on that mindset. You know what I mean? Like that's not just a me thing. But yeah, thank you very much.
Shout out.
Any other keys to success there?
Just to add, maybe I told the team like at the beginning of the tournament, like that we have to take shots a lot and make big plays, even if you're not fully in sync yet, just to get into that mindset, even if it doesn't work in the first game, sort of. Because if you like are sort of scared because you haven't played a lot with each other, so only take the easy passes, you're not going to win against the big teams if you always just do that. So we like had a few bad hucks in the first game, but that was sort of needed to get back in and just say like, whatever, we'll huck it away and then the next one will work. So, yeah.
I think for me, a major takeaway from the tournament as a whole was our game against UCSB. For that game, I don't know if they, like Santa Barbara knew, but we were playing our D-line as our O-line and our O-line as our D-line the entire game. And for me, that was just like a great game because it showcased just how each one of our lines could play both. And everyone out there was just kind of having fun. And we didn't really feel like we were being that intense, but we were just having fun out there and switching up the lines and letting everyone play whatever they wanted to play. And so for me, I think that that's like a big mentality with our team is we're always playing better when we're having fun. And we're always playing better when our sideline's super active and we're all super engaged and we're all kind of cheering each other on while the game's going on and hyping each other up. And UCSB really helped us that game. And it kind of led us into the second day and how well we played the second day.
It's funny that crossover versus UCSB, the crossover didn't mean anything in terms of placement for the tournament Sunday and nothing. Like it was basically just an extra game we played on Saturday. But yeah, it really did show us that we play our best when we're just hanging out and tossing with our pals. You know what I mean? Like that's when we play our best, is when we're locked in, we're ready to play a game, but we're relaxed and we're playing for each other.
I would just add about the Santa Barbara game. Like Calvin said, it wasn't important. So for the first half, we kind of thought about like taking it slow to like not get too tired. And the first half wasn't great. We played quite badly, I would say. But then what was a sign of a good team was that we were quite intentional about in the second half turning the intensity up again. And sometimes I would say in like unexperienced teams that doesn't work. Like even if you try to turn it on, then it's too late. But for us, it worked. Like once we like had the halftime huddle and said like now it's intensity again, we went up for a few points and won it quite easily. And then I thought that's a great sign that we can do that.
One final thing in that game, I think it was that game. Being a school from Montreal, not everyone kind of knew where we were from, and we got mistaken a couple times for a Division 3 team. And so we had to kind of correct them a little bit. No, we're D1 in Canada. Let's go. We can play up here too. But for me, at least, it was just cool seeing, people may not actually know where we're from, because that's kind of something that I didn't really realize until going there.
I think a lot of places don't realize how good the teams are in Ontario and Quebec for college, because you don't kind of dip down into the States. They don't really know about you. And it's been such a shame up until this point. So y'all are trailblazing. It's great. So you kind of did talk about some lessons that you learned from the Santa Barbara game. Is there anything specific that you learned about your team? Maybe some of the rookies coming in, or some styles that worked or didn't work, or just general culture lessons that you got out of the weekend?
I mean, so we took in a bunch of rookies in the fall. I think we had a huge rookie class, 12 people, because, with 2 years of people graduating, we had space on the team. So we got to play with those guys all throughout the fall. They're pretty established on the team now. But then we also, just between the fall and the spring season, we brought up some guys from our B team. And I want to shout those guys out. They were at the tournament. We brought up 3 guys, Kensho, Kaneko, Daniel 2, and Ferris Nolan. And Kensho wasn't able to make it, but both Danny and Ferris were at the tournament. And I just want to shout those guys out. They played great. It was so nice to see them be able to come out and mesh with the A team, ball out with the guys. It was awesome to have them there. And they had, just wonderful sideline presence and on the field contributions all weekend. So shout out those guys.
Nice.
Oh, also for the UCSB game, I want to shout out UCSB. We did not want to wear our darks at all that weekend because they were all long sleeve and way too hot. I went to flip with UCSB. They were wearing their blacks, and I was like, oh gosh. And so before we even flipped, I was like, we'll just take whites, whatever. And they're like, oh, you actually want to wear your whites? Okay, yeah, we can do that, because they wanted to wear their darks. So we just agreed on that one before the flip. Thanks, guys. That was huge.
We were just coming out of a Montreal winter. It was way too hot in Texas.
Oh, so hot.
Way
For
too
all
hot.
of those Santa Barbara Ultimate players that listen to our very niche Canadian podcast, that shout out's for you. Any other lessons from either of you two?
Maybe for me also, I learned to trust my teammates a lot more. I saw how much our rookies improved, and I sometimes have the tendency to feel like I have to take a lot of responsibility as an experienced player in important points. But then, for example, Saturday in the second game against UT Austin, I kind of didn't drink enough, and the heat got me a little bit, so I had to take a few points off. And first was felt like I was letting the team down because they need me often in important games, so that's my impression. But then I saw how all the rookies stepped up, and everybody was able to throw great hucks and catch amazing throws. So that was a cool lesson for me to see.
Nice.
I guess for me, one major takeaway or point would be just I didn't get to go to sectionals. We have half of our team who is American, which I think is a big reason why we end up going to these American tournaments and want to do this American circuit. And so when we went down in the fall for sectionals, we sent 12 guys, and those 12 guys ended up beating UMass. They were lost on Universe to 2 teams, Dartmouth, who ended up beating at Centex, which was awesome. But to not make regionals. And for me, I didn't and for most Canadians, we didn't really see how we would stack up to American competition. And so for me, it was really interesting seeing, okay, we can ball, we can play with these guys, we can hang. This isn't anything different than Canada. We're kind of
just warmer,
somewhat. Yeah, just a little warmer.
Yeah, and so you alluded to the U.S. series a little bit, but everyone wants to know, you're at the time of this recording, number 24 in the power rankings. As I said off air, only 20 get in, so you got to sneak up a little bit, get into that 20. But what are the plans now for the rest of the spring? You're planning to go to conferences, we're assuming, but we want to hear it. We want you to say it first here on the podcast, so then everyone knows to watch out for the McGill team as they make their way, hopefully, to nationals.
Well, I think our first plan for the spring is to practice. It's getting warm enough up here that we can start playing outside. So I think that's our first shot. But then, yeah, I mean, we're going to be at sectionals. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same thing as in the fall, probably 4 bids, 6 or 7 teams hoping to make regionals this time. We were, 1 point here or there away from it in the fall with 12 guys. So hopefully we can do it this time. And then regionals, man, hardest section in the world, hardest region in the world. 2 bids for the Northeast with 6 teams in the top 25 or something like that. 6 teams in the top 15, I think, in the rankings or something like that. So I don't know. We're ready. We're excited. We're happy that we're in this challenge. I think one of the guys on the team was like, man, I wouldn't want to just waltz into nationals with an easy bid. You know what I mean? Like I want to earn it. I want to fight through this hard section, hard region, see what happens.
Ultiworld talked about that on their latest podcast. I'm sure you heard it. Like kind of later in their podcast, they kind of shouted you all out for your tournament, and they were saying that there are 6 teams in that region should have 6 bids, and how unfortunate it is the way the bids went this year, that they didn't actually go based on strength of tournaments and stuff. And it's obviously a weird year, and it'd be so sick if you can make it. What a Cinderella story. So I'll definitely be rooting for you.
I think that's the way we feel about it, is that if we're able to pull something off, it's really going to mean something, I guess is how we think about it.
So you have no plans to going to the Metro East, is what you're saying, like relocating schools. You want the hard road, the gauntlet, is what you're telling me, Calvin.
Absolutely. I want the challenge.
I think we want to leave the bids open to any other Canadian schools that want to join us in the States.
Do it.
Open challenge to those. I like that.
Open challenge to our rivals.
Queens. And would U of T, are they Metro East too? I don't really know how geography works.
Yeah, I think all the teams in Ontario would be considered Metro East. Fact checkers in our audience can tell us in the YouTube comments otherwise. But I know, okay, so quick story time here. A U of T team led by Bretton Tan and some other GOAT/Rush players actually went to conferences one year, won it, and they were seated first at regionals, but some of them had other commitments with the AUDL, so they couldn't play it, and they didn't win. But they were seated first at regionals. U of T almost made it there. McGill, here's your chance now.
You got it.
Being seated first would be hopefully in our midst, but I mean that means beating Brown and UMass. No problem. So we'll see how it goes.
You got it.
No problem.
Now, this is the final question, unless Theo, you have anything else percolating. Okay. College tournaments are so fun. If people have heard me talk about this on the podcast a lot, that if you have an opportunity to go to a school that plays in the States, do it. And if you go to a school that doesn't play in the States, force them to play in the States. So speak to the next generation, speak to the juniors coming up, tell them how awesome this tournament was. Did you have any fun memories, any kind of little moments that can kind of paint a picture of what these experiences could be like for the next generation coming up?
I can't express how much fun I had and how grateful I am that we were able to do this and have this experience. It's truly something like no other. I mean, on the way down there, 8 of our guys were supposed to be on this one flight. It got delayed. We missed our connection. Our flight got delayed twice. The next day, we spent the night in Chicago. And, that it's like a 30+ hour nightmare travel time, but just being with the guys made it bearable. You know what I mean? And it's Frisbee really is about making memories with your friends. And that's what this tournament really was that it was just like, yeah, here I am back in my hometown with this entirely different set of people that I've got to know over the past 4 years. I'm showing them where I grew up. It was just so wonderful, and it was the culmination of a dream 4 years in the making. And I just can't express how much fun I had and how wonderful it was. And just, it wouldn't have been the same if it was just a trip with my friends. You know what I mean? Like Ultimate Frisbee was really the icing on the cake of just a wonderful weekend. And I can't express to you how much you should try and have experiences like this and do what you can to make this kind of thing happen. And that was part of the other thing, is that it was just like, yeah, just do it. Just say you're going to do it, and everyone's going to want to do it. And just it's like our one of our coaches, Jamie, he coached the men's B team. He was trying to get us to do this. He was like, just get in a van and drive. Just drive to the tournament. Just go. Show up with 8 guys. It'll work. And we really embraced that mentality and just bought the plane tickets and came down. So just do it, I guess.
Yeah, I can just add to that so many great memories. And for me, it was my first time in the US ever as well. So it was a great introduction to like US culture, I guess. And being hosted by like US or like families in Texas was also super nice. Like they were super welcoming. There were barbecues. Every family had dogs. It was just like I felt like at home immediately with the families and the people there. And I guess cool memory at the end was also like I haven't had a spirit circle in like 2 years. So I kind of missed that. And I don't know like how it is here, the culture exactly. I think it's mostly because of COVID. But in any case, like I asked another guy on our team and we just went up to the Austin guys and then had a spirit circle. The first one I like had in 2 years and we just talked. And the guy next to me said he never had a spirit circle in his whole life before on UT Austin. So that was kind of nice. Yeah. I don't know if Makalu has more to add.
I guess just to like the youths coming up into like the youths coming up. I say this is like not a very old person at all. But to those coming up into the college scene, if you don't come to McGill, which bad choice, we have a great program here, but if you don't end up coming here, definitely try and get your teams to come down to the States. It's within most Canadian universities' capacities to do so. I know that UBC and UVic have done so historically, and just look what they ended up in the Canadian national champions this year. Just saying. I say this as a Vancouverite too. I'm gonna get going back.
I'm just gonna like cut your audio. Just one sec.
Yeah. But I'm just talk to your captains, talk to your coaches. It's super easy to go. All you need is a van. You need is a van
and a passport. Usually.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah, that's sick. Thank you so much for sharing, everybody.
Yeah, any final... We'll leave the floor open for the final words of wisdom, because we've gotten some wisdom from everyone. Anyone want to drop any more tidbits of wisdom before we sign off here? We do, as Danny said, appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Just keep it pushing, I guess. Like, honestly, it's... so I went to McGill because it was going to be so much cheaper than any other option I had in the States. And I'll be honest, I was a little disappointed. I was like, man, I'm going to be missing out on playing a lot of good college ultimate. And I went into my freshman year a cocky little bastard. And I was like, we are going to win Canadian nationals because these guys aren't good. And, got silver my freshman year, then got fifth in my sophomore year. And I was like, dang, competition's pretty good. We must be really bad compared to these Americans. And then coming down south of the border, no, we can hang. Canadian Ultimate is just as good as American Ultimate. Like, honestly, seems to be this sense that like, oh, Canadian competition, not as good, whatever. UBC, UVic don't want to come all the way over to the central Canada for like subpar competition. That's why they go south for better Ultimate. But like, honestly, American Ultimate is not that much better than Canadian Ultimate. Like, really, we can compete. We can absolutely hang. So yeah, all those other Canadian teams, open shout out, just go do it. Like, honestly, it's going to work out.
There's other reasons than the lack of competition why there's teams on the West Coast that can practice 12 months a year outside don't go to the East Coast. The weather at college nationals this year is exactly the reason. Let's go to California instead. Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit colder, more windy out here for sure. I guess adding to Calvin's point, I even forgot what I was going to say now, but yeah, I mean, just get out there, go and play. Cold, it's snowing here again, once again, classic Montreal, but I mean, we're still getting after it. What's your excuse? Go to the States. Let's do it. Let's invade the South.
Yeah, don't have much to add except that college frisbee is awesome. Didn't have a chance to experience it at all in Germany. We don't have good college frisbee, so just experiencing that the last half year with the team was pretty amazing and super. Like the other said, super high level. Yeah, do it.
Yeah, that wraps it up for us. Part of our March Madness episode here. So we got some more college content coming for you after this transition. So once again, all three of you, thank you for coming on. We wish you a lot of luck. All of the Huckin Eh audience will be cheering you on at conferences and then regionals. And hopefully we'll see you in Milwaukee. So if you do see them in Milwaukee, you know that you heard them here first on the Huckin Eh podcast. So thanks for coming on, folks, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Go follow our socials, Instagram and Twitter. Keep up with us throughout the season. We'll be posting.
All right, we're back. The second half of our March Madness episode. That's why Danny and I got the basketball jerseys on, ready to celebrate March Madness, talking college ultimate. So we heard from McGill earlier. Now we get to hear from two other teams, Mcmaster Women's and Carlton Open, coming off a successful weekend just a bit over a week ago now. The CEIUS, hopefully I got that right. The Eastern Indoor University Series, for those that don't know, that live in the West Coast and don't play the 4-on-4 games. So we got some esteemed guests for us. So we'll start off with the Mcmaster Women's team. Quinn, why don't you introduce yourself, your position/role on the team, and how many years you've been playing for Mcmaster?
Hello. I'm Quinn. I'm one of the captains of the Mac Women's team, and I've been playing for 3 years, and whatever you count last year as being.
Awesome. And your partner in crime there, Sasha, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. I'm Sasha. I'm the other captain of the Mcmaster Women's team. I've been playing on the team for 4 years plus whatever you count last year to be.
Sounds good. And our representative from the Carlton Ravens, you're the Ravens, correct, Jeremy? So I can say that?
That's correct.
For the ultimate team there, not some other funky names. So Jeremy, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Jeremy Hill, and I'm the coach of the Carlton Ravens Open program, A, B, and C team for the indoor series.
Very, very, very excited to talk to all of you. It's really always very illuminating to have people on our podcast that are not from BC, because I learn so much about what the rest of y'all do for college ultimate, and it sounds sick. Like, we don't get a lot of local competition where we're from, so I'm very excited to hear from all of you. So on that note, what were some of your team's goals and foci going into the indoor season? And I'm sure you can have many, but if there's like a primary and a secondary kind of focus that was really important to your teams, and we'll start with you, Quinn.
I think just kind of building off the fall season, people at MAC, the entire men's and women's teams, were just really excited to keep playing. So we started practicing for the winter season in November because people wanted to keep going and keep the train rolling. So I think one of the biggest things all year has been development. We have lots of new players, and a lot of people hadn't played fours before. So I think first and foremost, people just wanted to keep playing and to learn about fours and keep improving. So I think that was the top priority for us. I don't know, Sasha, you've got any secondary goals to add in there?
No, I think like all year we've just been really focused. Like, we haven't really picked a placement goal with so many new players. We had like 15 rookies on our team in the fall season. It's really just kind of been about everyone sort of learning the game and having fun and continuing that from the fall into the winter season.
Nice. How about you, Jeremy?
It's all good. Jer's usually what I get called anyway. So for the Carlton Open team, it was a little bit different because we're pretty much split into 3 teams with the number of players that we have across our A and B fall team. So for our A team, we are definitely looking to win the indoor championship and kind of had that mentality throughout our training. For our B and C teams, it's a lot of development and just challenging those A players in practice to make themselves better. So that was kind of our goal for the indoor season. And just like Mac Women's, we also started practicing as soon as the outdoor season ended. So we had that shut down, but we were good to go as soon as we were able to get back in there, and excited to be able to play in one more tournament at the end of the year.
Yeah, for those that didn't know, a bunch of the tournaments, I think we've talked about this, Danny, but some of the tournaments did get canceled. So normally there's a bit more of a ramp up with other tournaments going on. So kudos that Ultimate Canada could even run the tournament. But Jeremy, a quick question for you. In the fall, you had an A and B team, correct? So how did it work in terms of splitting it into the A, B, and C? Because I know other schools were also splitting multiple teams. So for you specifically in your team, was it only A players on the A team? And then how did the B and C team split work?
Yeah, so for Carlton, we did choose to split A, B, C in terms of skill level. Some teams chose to split X, Y. So they went more of a split squad style. But for our team, we had about 24 to 26 players. So it worked out to about 8 per team. And the fall guys kind of balanced out. A team was the A team in the fall. B team was a mixture of the A and B team. And C team was mostly the B guys from the fall. So really a scale on the development, but everyone kind of had their place, and it allowed players who maybe didn't get a lot of playtime in the fall to get lots of playtime in the indoor series. And it was great to see.
And Danny, for someone who's not as seasoned in the fours game, there's nowhere to hide in fours, as all three of you probably know. So if you can't throw, it kind of gets exposed even indoors in the fours game. So that's why I love fours, that you get to kind of experience a different type of ultimate and you get to play throughout the winter. So in terms of the tournament itself, this is going to be a very broad question, but can you talk about the tournament, maybe some key moments? Maybe there's a big, turning point in one of the games that you want to speak out and give a shout out to. So Sasha, we'll start with you this time.
Sure. I guess kind of overall, this was basically the first tournament that we had played indoors. We played in Kingston in the fall, but with a pretty different squad than what we ended up playing with. So that was kind of the first time that everyone got to play together competitively. And there's always, I feel like, things you have to work out that come with that. So really kind of just working through some of those things as we made our way through the tournament. And I think we really focused on keeping our focus. Some of the games were kind of more or less competitive depending on who we were playing. So making sure that we were like striving for our team goals, regardless of who we were competing against, and then turning up the intensity when we got to those final few games.
And in terms of the intensity, were you running like shorter lines within that, or were you kind of just playing everyone focusing on development, even in the final and semifinals?
The squad that we had, like we were never in a situation really where we had to choose to push lines. We had 10 players and all 10 players were playing really well. So we actually had a couple of times where we tried to do kind of fun lines. Like we would give a line to the graduating players, or like have the captains play together. And when we changed up from the chemistry that we'd had all weekend, it immediately went poorly and we had to change back. So the push lines were not working for us, but the rolling with everyone who'd been playing together worked quite well.
Yeah, some lessons learned there. And Quinn, anything to add there for McMaster's very successful weekend?
No, I think Sasha summed it up pretty well there.
All right, Carlton. I know Carlton's been a fixture in the fours scene. They kind of really focus on it both on the men and women's side. So what was the tournament like for your team? You as a coach not being able to play, but ushering on the Utes, as they say, to victory.
Yeah, so this tournament was very unique in terms of the schedule. So a normal tournament you play, then you usually have a big bye, play again, etc., all day long until you're exhausted. But it was like a 3-block tournament where you either played in the first, second, or third block. So we had back-to-back games, which really made the day go by really quick in terms of playing. And so for the Saturday games, our Carlton A and B team played really well, and we won 5 out of the 6 games, which was sort of expected, but the B team did even better than we wanted, which was great to see. And then on Sunday, we got into the tougher top 8 bracket. And once we beat our hometown rivals at Ottawa U in the semifinals, we kind of had all the confidence we needed to take that final away.
It's just so funny to me that you're going to a tournament with like 10 people and that's like an appropriate roster size. It's just like, I really love small sided ultimate and it's just so good for development. So you're all giving me a lot of FOMO here. So what I am curious, because I think both of your teams have had quite a bit of success this kind of school year, because I think both of your teams had transitioned really well from disgusting outdoor weather to perfect indoor conditions. And so what were the keys to your team's like success, if you want to focus on specifically things you're focusing on in the final against certain opponents, or a team attitude or mantra, or anything that kind of helped guide you to the victories that you were able to have? And Jeremy, I'm going to throw it to you first.
Sure, yeah. I think the key to success for all 3 teams, especially the A team on the Sunday, was just being patient. Being able to make the right throw and not forcing anything. As Theo said, if you're not a great thrower, you really get exposed. So just taking the open throws and not throwing stuff away and having to play defense, especially as you mentioned about the low rosters. We started with 8. We're down to 7 on Sunday, actually, because one of our guys had to go back to Ottawa for work. And then we were managing 2 injuries as well. So the less defense you could play and the easier your goals were, the more success you're going to have. So that was our target for the weekend.
Awesome. Let's go to Quinn next.
I think throughout the season, transitioning from outdoor to indoor, one of the most fun things to kind of watch as a captain has been watching people become more confident in their ability to throw. I think in the outdoor season, it's so short and condensed, and because the conditions are not always ideal, the people who end up picking up the disc are usually the people who are confident in doing that. And when we moved to indoor, it meant that people who didn't really get that opportunity to try, because there's no wind, you can kind of get away with some more funky throws. And you can try a couple things out. So because we had no expectations for the winter, I think one of the things we talked about a lot as a team was just encouraging people to pick up the disc regardless of their position. So nobody had really assigned positions on the field. So that was really fun and exciting to watch as a teammate and captain of the team.
Awesome. And anything to add, Sasha?
Yeah, I think like one of the other really like keys to success for us this kind of season was our commitment from our team transitioning from fall to winter. I think typically the university series is taken by at least university teams very seriously in the fall. And then the winter indoors is kind of like a for fun thing that teams sort of do as like to stay together and practice skills a little bit, but it's taken a little less seriously. And Ultimate Canada was kind of trying to rework that, but with COVID, it kind of got a little stuck. So often we've in past years seen kind of drop off from attendance at practices, and people only want to play the fall and they don't really want to play the winter, catching up on school or whatever. So it was really exciting to see this year, like we had routinely 16 to 20 women out at practice every single week, which is pretty much our whole roster. And if you have your whole roster from your fall out once a week, at least, on top of like playing socially and in community leagues, like everyone's going to get a lot better, and they're going to get practice playing together. So I think that was also something that was really cool for us to see, was that everyone was like so bought in and having so much fun that they wanted to keep playing all winter long.
Yeah, in terms of next steps here, because you've had your success. What's the next step for each of your teams? For those who have listened for the full episode to this point, you know that we were very much stressing playing in the States. So I'm not sure if that's in either of your team's plans, but Jeremy, we'll start with you. Any other plans for Carlton right now? Maybe even getting them ready for Club Ultimate in Ottawa or the fall series. What's that looking like for you over there in the capital city?
Yeah, so we still have field time available to us. We had a practice this morning, bright and early at 7 a.m. as usual. And we've kind of transitioned from 4s into playing 5s or 6s, depending on the number of people, just getting people ready for the season. They've got various tryouts, whether it's club, AUDL, whatever they have coming up next, just getting them ready to go for that, and making sure that their skills stay on par and if not improve, so that when they get to those tryouts, they can succeed in the summer and then return back to Carlton ready to go for next season.
So no US stuff is what you're saying?
Yeah, sorry, no US stuff. I think it's just a little bit of a unknown with the COVID stuff and everything here. We don't really know what's going on, and just kind of a tight schedule for exams and everything. So I don't think it was an option for us this year.
Okay, no problem.
Danny, we might be surprised. Maybe Mcmaster is going. So Quinn, we'll start with you.
Unfortunately, no. I'm surprised. I think everyone's kind of scrambling to finish up school in the last couple of weeks of the semester. We're hoping, fingers crossed, to have an exhibition game with Western, but it will just be a fun afternoon or evening if that ends up working out. But other than that, just the same as Jeremy, we've got some practices for people to get ready for tryouts into the spring and summer season, and just continuing to play for fun.
Sasha, anything to add there?
I don't think so. No.
All right. Now, final scripted question anyways. We sometimes have some off the cuff questions at the end, but is there any fun memories that you can share from the tournament? Any maybe funny things happened, or potentially just like awesome moments, anything kind of more specific? Sometimes we talk so high level, and it's nice to kind of get a little bit more insight about the nuances of what's happening on the field. And let's start with you, Quinn.
I'd say one of my personal highlights was a not frisbee playing moment. But we had a really awesome Cotton Eye Joe dance circle with some of the ladies from Guelph. So that was a very fun moment in my books. Love a good dance.
Yes. How about you, Sasha?
I think like as kind of like the last tournament as the captain, it's always exciting when people do things for the like kind of first time. So we had a couple of people who had like their first like successful bids, or people who played in their first tournament with us that weekend. And everyone kind of had their like little exciting moment. So I think that was kind of fun to have that as like our last send off on a really positive note.
Awesome. And Jer? And me?
It's all good. Yeah, for me, I think it was just the success that the players were able to attain on the weekend. Players like Brandon Adibe, who, as someone I think it might have been Quinn mentioned earlier, the players who aren't normally throwers during the season have the opportunity to step up and become throwers. And just to see the smile on Brandon's face when he'd get the disc outside the end zone and, put a great throw into the end zone isn't something we get to see all fall. So it's great to see. And his teammates were supporting him the whole weekend. So those are the moments I take away as a coach, where I don't even have to say anything. It just happens in front of us and leads to some success, and overall just improves our whole team. So those are kind of my favorite moments from the weekend.
I think going off of a little bit of what you said there, you kind of shouted out somebody specific that didn't necessarily get to have those opportunities in sevens outdoor. I want to save some space for each team to kind of shine some light on some of those kind of unsung players, or those players that surprised you positively at the tournament, and maybe their growth, just an opportunity to praise them. And Sasha or Quinn, whichever one of you would like to start.
Yeah, I think we have to shout out, like, we had a player who played her first tournament with us this weekend, Anea. She's been like super dedicated on our practice roster all year. Came to like, I think every single practice probably in the fall, every single practice in the winter. And so it was really cool that she got to play this weekend. And I think what was even cooler is like, if you weren't on our team, you would have no idea that it was her first tournament. She got right in there, picked up the disc with confidence, cut with confidence, did like an amazing job. So I think that was really cool to watch, because it was really cool for her to get that opportunity, and then for her to like run with it and succeed was also awesome. Quinn, did you have someone?
I honestly can't pick just one person. So I want to shout out everybody that was at the tournament and all of the people who couldn't make it for various reasons. We had a couple people who were going to come, and then COVID got in the way of that. So we definitely missed them. But honestly, a huge shout out to everybody who was there. I can't possibly pick one.
Jeremy, I know you can pick one.
I got more than one. So I got a few names. Some of my U24 prospects that are coming up. So as well as Brandon, Noah Bailey, Alex Cameron, and Ian Wallace really stood out for us this weekend. And as Sasha was saying about a player who played their first tournament, we have one player, Isaac, who doesn't play club, only plays at university, and he had a standout weekend. So big shout out to him for playing great this weekend.
And Danny, I got another unscripted question now, because I want people to play fours more. So I'm going to give, if anyone, we'll leave the floor open for this one. Give a pitch to the people listening who don't play fours already, why they should do it, and what it can benefit them for when they go play sevens outdoors. So who wants to take the first stab at promoting the fours game to our Huckin Eh audience?
Besides the fact that it might be the whiff diff kind of Olympics push would be fours. Besides that,
I can take a shot at it. I think fours just gives you an opportunity to showcase everything you have as a player. You're not really labeled as a handler or a cutter. Some of the most successful players are what you'd call a hybrid player who can do both. And also gives you an opportunity to stay in great shape for the fall and summer season because you're constantly running. There's no opportunity to take a break until the point's over. So that would be my kind of pitch to someone who wants to play great ultimate and learn lots of skills and stay in shape all year round.
I'd add into that especially if you're looking at it from a team's perspective, with only 4 people in the field, you get to really develop chemistry between players. So in a single point, everybody matters. And no matter what you're doing, even if you're not getting the disc, you're going to be affecting the play. I don't think that's necessarily the case when you're outdoors. And in sevens, you can kind of get away with being lost on the field a little bit. But with fours, you really have to become a team and work together and know where everyone is. So I think that's really fun when you look at it from developing as a team and really growing together.
Yeah, I would just add into that, like, I think fours is super fun. I actually almost like fours more than sevens. It's like really fast paced. It happens really quickly and there's no wind usually because it's indoors. So that's a pretty good selling point by itself.
Usually there's no wind. Is there indoor places where there is a bit of a gust?
If it gets really windy, sometimes the domes will kind of like sway.
That's crazy.
So that wraps up our second main event there. We would like to leave space for this. So any last words of wisdom, anything you want to say, you want to shout out to one of your parents or a friend or whatever you want to do. This is your chance. This is your chance. Say, hi, Mom, I'm on the podcast, whatever that is. So this is an open floor.
I can go first again, just ready to go. I just want to say thanks to Ultimate Canada for being able to run a tournament. As Mac and Carlton were both training since November, it would have been a bummer to not been able to play. And also creating a space for all players to be able to get in. Originally, the Waterloo tournament is designed to be a championship weekend where only a certain amount of teams qualify, which I think it was Quinn alluded to earlier, but it allowed all A, B, and C players for Carlton to play, and some of the other universities brought multiple teams that went into the weekend just to have an opportunity to play. And I think that's a win for Ultimate Canada as opposed to opting to just take a few teams. So big shout out to them. And lastly to Danie and Theo for having me on. It was a great opportunity.
I agree with Jeremy on all of that. And thanks for having us on here as well, guys. But I just also want to do a big shout out to, we've got 3 coaches, Matt, Kim, and Megan. And they've all been incredibly supportive all year. And Matt he came with us to the tournament and has been there so many mornings. So they've been super supportive all year. So a huge thank you to them. And also a big shout out to all of the men on the Mac team. They've been just like an awesome support system for us while we're playing. And they're always the first ones to rush on the field after a win.
I love that.
A big shout out to them. It's a great Mac Ultimate family we've got going.
Yeah, I think Quinn pretty much summed it up. Echo what Jeremy said, definitely grateful that Ultimate Canada was able to figure out how to run a last tournament for us safely. It would have been kind of sad to have only been able to play in Kingston. And also our 3 coaches who have given up so much of their time in the fall and the winter, and they all work actual jobs. So we appreciate that in their free time outside of their actual jobs, they take the time to come and coach us, and that they take that really seriously and that they're really committed. And yeah, I think the Mac men deserve a huge shout out. I think oftentimes, even if they're not doing as well as they want to personally, they are our number one fans when we're succeeding, both in the fall at CUUCs. There's like some pretty great footage of them singing in the stands and cheering us on. And then I think almost the entire Mac men's roster was there to watch our final from like above with like some terrible view in the indoor series. So I think it's pretty cool to have the program support each other like that. I think that's pretty rare. And then, of course, a shout out to all of our players who have been playing from September to whatever month we're in now, and that have all been super dedicated and made the return from COVID season really great.
Awesome. Really appreciate having you all on, and want to plant the seed in your heads to try to convince the entire team the following year, whether you're playing or not, or whether you're coaching or not, to check out the American series. I just feel like so many Canadian teams could do so well in the States, and I really want to see what more teams can do. McGill is just like a good example of a team that went down and just absolutely exceeded expectations. And then I also want to say, all of you are kind of talking about appreciating coaches and stuff. Well, Jeremy, you are a coach, but this is an opportunity for anyone who's listening who is coached by someone. It's very rare that these coaches are paid. So this is your reminder to thank a coach. They out there doing the good work.
There should be a thank you coach day or something, Danny.
There is, but
there is. There you go.
Not specifically for Ultimate, but yeah, there's a day, but it could be every day. So
there you go. Thanks for coming on, and yes, keep doing what you're doing, building up Ultimate in your respective cities. We do appreciate that. So we'll talk again soon at some point, and maybe we'll see Mac and Carlton on the podium at CUC. You never know, right? So we'll see you guys next time.
All right. That was a doozy. I will not say the word that Theo doesn't like me to say. I will not say it. Oh, he's earmuffs. No, I won't say it. That was a doozy of an episode. If you've made it this long, your cardio, your aerobic capacity is ready for the season if you can handle this much Ultimate content. So, Theo, what are your impressions of all of our wonderful guests that we had on today?
Yeah, the saying is, it sounds like an Instagram caption I'm making, but hashtag the future is bright. So I'm just really excited for all the cool things that are happening in the college scene, especially with the fact that some of these teams are player led. So the fact that, and sure they have coaches, but the players are buying into wanting to go to the States or wanting to improve, wanting to go to practice. As a coach, you can't force them to come. So just hearing about Mcmaster and their attendance and McGill's buy-in to even go to the States. So all that kind of thing just shows me the future is bright and people are hungering for Ultimate. And that's just what I've definitely learned is that people just want to play. The fact that there's winter indoor Ultimate is something we've missed for the last couple of years, and people at least out here are taking advantage of it. So those are my takeaways. Danny, what about you?
Yeah, I guess when talking to them, you don't see this, everyone, because it's obviously not in the actual episode, but everyone lingers after we're done the episode. We stop recording. They just kind of keep chatting because they're just so excited to be talking about Frisbee. We're also excited to be playing Frisbee. The energy is there. It's just a really good time. And we ended up recording our subscriber only section with the men of McGill because we were just talking and it was just such a engaging conversation that we just hit record again and then continued to go. So my takeaway is that everyone's excited, everyone's ready to play. And on that note, I'm going to pump up our subscriber only section. If you want to hear some spicy takes that those McGill guys had about Canadian Ultimate College Championships or University Championships, they kind of talked a little bit about some of the West Coast stuff and they threw some very baby shade. I feel like it was respectable and factual. So if you are curious what they had to say about UBC and UVic and stuff like that, and I think they also kind of shouted out some of their own teammates a little bit more, you should hit up our subscriber section and listen to it. It's quality content.
Yeah. And Danny, you said something earlier about the aerobic. If you listen to us while you work out, that's cool. I've always wondered if people listen to us on 1.5 speed, because I definitely listen to all my podcasts on 2 speed. So when I actually try to listen to a podcast on normal speed, it actually throws me off because their voice sounds really different. So if you watch us on high speed, that's, at least I think that's kind of cool. So that's a random tidbit I wanted to throw in at the end of the episode.
May as well throw it out there. So any last thoughts, Theo, before we head to our subscriber only if you're a subscriber?
Well, all of our audience will be subscribers by the end of this. So
I know we talked about it a lot. It's we're getting paid to talk about it. We're not. Well, we're getting paid sort of, but we don't get paid to talk about it. Anyways.
This should be a kickback option. Anyways, you're going to get more of the Huckin Eh. We're going to be coming back stronger than ever because, like we talked about earlier in the news, Frisbee's coming back. and teams are already like formulating, practicing, and before you know it, ADL season's going to start. Before you know it, club's going to start, and before you know it, Worlds is coming around, and I want to be there. So send me someone.
I was going to say, if more than one Canadian team qualifies for college nationals, we should campaign to get Ultiworld to send us to cover them.
Yeah, we should be commentating every UBC or McGill or UVic or whoever. Toronto, if you decide to go.
Do it.
Guelph, whoever. Manitoba.
Yeah.
Regina, whoever. We'll commentate your games. Come on.
Yeah.
Danny, you want to plug the socials this time? I'll let you do your favorite
Instagram, Huckin Eh, Twitter, don't go there. We don't do anything. Facebook, we just repost the stuff that we post on Instagram. So follow us on Instagram. That's our hub. And if you are if you're playing on a club team this summer, we're going to start up our club team chats again. So look forward to that. And let's get excited for the club season to start and everything. So thank you for listening. And we will see you at the next episode, which is going to be a mystery as always.
Hey, this is Becky Thompson from Iceni, Team Canada, and now Team GB. And you're listening to the Huckin Eh podcast, your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate.